So Crisis on Infinite Earths is coming this December and this January. It's the culmination of everything that the Arrowverse has been building towards for this point. And over the years, the Arrowverse has run through a lot of comic book storylines, but in my opinion, they haven't really done any good adaptations of a certain comic book story. Most of the adaptations they've done haven't been very similar to the comics. They've kind of just been like similar in name only. But Crisis on Infinite Earths really has an opportunity to be the biggest adaptation of a storyline they've done, and it is DC's biggest event. It's debatable. It's arguable if it's DC's biggest event, but I think it is DC's biggest event. It's DC's Infinity Gauntlet. It is the big thing that I'm baffled that the TV shows are doing before the movies, but it's great to see nonetheless because I love Crisis. So I thought it'd be fun to talk about where the Arrowverse goes from here. Assuming that they're going to be building up to another event, like how after Endgame, Marvel's probably going to be building towards some new event in Phase 6 or whatever. It'll be interesting to think if the Arrowverse is going to build towards something, because it's hard to know where the Arrowverse is going. We know Batwoman's getting a show, but The Flash and Supergirl and Legends are all getting very deep into their runs, and with Arrow ending, it's likely The Flash and Supergirl and Legends are going to end within the next 2 or 3 seasons as well, which kind of makes it hard to tell if they're going to be building towards another event, unless they're going to use another event to end all of these shows. But what other big DC events is there besides Crisis on Infinite Earths? Well, when you think of DC events, if you're not a big comic book reader, the biggest event besides Crisis on Infinite Earths you probably think of is Flashpoint. It's due to the animated movie, due to how it was supposed to be happening in the DCEU, and it's also a huge DC event. Thing is, though, is that The Flash already ran that plotline into the ground and ruined it. So we probably won't be seeing any version of that again. But a version of that would have been awesome with Oliver Queen, or Robert Queen as the Green Arrow. Use like a really weakened version of Supergirl who's been kept inside a government kind of place for ages. It would be really cool to do that, but I couldn't see them doing a proper version of it, especially since Flash already did it. Invasion is also it's not a big event, but it's a cool event with the Dominators and all that. But they've already done that, which Invasion wasn't even that important in the comics, so I was happy with how they adapted it in the shows. Elseworlds isn't actually an event in the comics, or it isn't actually a comic book storyline. Elseworlds is just the name of DC comics that are outside of continuity. So like, for example, Superman Red Sun is considered an Elseworlds comic. And that's another event. Red Sun has already been done as well with Supergirl this season under the name Red Daughter. And there's a couple other random comic book events that have been done. But there's a bunch of events that haven't been done. And one that I would absolutely love to see is Infinite Crisis. So Infinite Crisis was in 2005. And it was kind of... It came after Crisis on Infinite Earths. Crisis set up a lot of things, but it was mainly the wrapping up of stories at that point. Infinite Crisis took a bunch of the things that Crisis on Infinite Earths set up, and it did new things with them. And Infinite Crisis is my favorite DC story of all time. I think it's my favorite DC or Marvel comic book of all time. I love that storyline so much. And there's so much to it. There's so many different storylines that all lead up to one thing. So I'm going to try and summarize this as best as I can. So in the months before Infinite Crisis, this whole secret about the JLA came out. That Dr. Light had raped Sue Dibney. Sue Dibney being Ralph Dibney's wife. And after finding out about this, the DC heroes were like, this is insane. And they all kind of came together to find Dr. Light and all that. And the heroes took a pretty drastic step. They used Zatanna to essentially lobotomize Dr. Light, just destroy his mind, or basically wipe his mind. Not all the Justice Leaguers were on board with this. Half of them were, half of them weren't. People like Superman didn't even know what happened. Batman did know what happened. He tried to stop it, but then Zatanna wiped his mind as well. And this sent Batman down a dark path. When he remembered what had happened, he started creating the OMAC Project and the Brother Eye Project and stuff like that. Maxwell Lord, who is actually going to be the villain in Wonder Woman 84, was secretly building a database on all of the superheroes. He was learning their identity, learning their locations, learning their weaknesses. And he was using all of this just so that he could take down the world's superheroes. people like Booster Gold and Blue Beetle Ted Kord started investigating this. They had no idea what was going on, but they knew something was off, so they started investigating. And Batman's Omax were secretly being used by Checkmate, by Maxwell Lord, and all of this, and Batman had no idea until it was too late, until the Omax started downloading into people's minds and just started taking over bodies. Ted Kord finally found out that Maxwell Lord was behind a lot of this, and he snuck into Checkmate's kind of headquarters place, and he found out about all the Omax stuff, and then Max shot Ted in the head before he could tell anybody. And this led down a bunch of things. Basically, the Justice League ended up finding out about this, and Wonder Woman cut off Maxwell Lord's head and showed it on live television. And during all this, Superman was brainwashed, he was mind controlled, and he did some stuff in Metropolis that kind of made the public eye a little bit worried about him. The Justice League wasn't trusting Batman due to the whole Omax situation. It was a very dark time for the DC universe, and it didn't even stop there. The secret society of supervillains started forming. When they learned what happened to Dr. Light being lobotomized, the supervillains started coming together because they didn't like the idea of villains just being able to get their mind wiped whenever the Justice League felt like it. And there were other villains who came to stop those villains because they were being led by Lex Luthor. There was 2 Lex Luthors. It's a very complicated piece of machinery, but it all ended up being one of the best DC events in history, in my opinion. And what I said wasn't even part of the event itself. That was just all of the setup for what happened in the event, such as the Omax storyline coming together, the Secret Society of Supervillains coming together. All of this, I think it could be a brilliant plotline. It could show that the heroes in the Arrowverse aren't as hopeful and heroic as we thought they were. They're actually dark people. Like, we could have Constantine, I don't know, wipe a supervillain's mind for some reason, with some of the legends agreeing with it, then with some of them not. Maybe Oliver doesn't agree with it and tries to figure out something to stop them or whatever. It could just be a really interesting plotline. I think they should definitely try and do it. Other stuff is, there's Blackest Night and there's Brightest Day, but you very much require the Green Lanterns to make that work. There's Future's End, but again, that kind of relies on Batman Beyond. I'm trying to think of plotlines that don't require characters they don't have. On top of that, though, they could always just do big storylines and just change it up a lot. They've already ran through a lot of the multiverse-related crises, which have been fine. Like, Earth X was great. Flash of Two Earths was great. It's kind of only Flashpoint that I feel like they really butchered, and I guess Red Sun as well, they didn't really do a good job with. But, yeah, my place I would love the Arrowverse to go after this would be Infinite Crisis, to build up to that. They even hinted at it back in Arrow Season 3, where Ray was creating the OMAC project. Like, they were hinting at that back in Season 3. It would be so easy to pick up that plot line and do something with it. But yeah, what would you like to see after Crisis and Infinite Earths? And I hope you're having an awesome day, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.